Hello. Today we're going to be reading Rumpelstiltskin from the fairy tales of the Brother Grimm. In this tale, an odd little man helps a maiden spin straw into gold. In return, she must give him her firstborn child, whom she can only win back by guessing the man's name. The power of a name is an important theme in mythology, folklore, and fantasy tales. As long as Rumpelstiltskin's identity is concealed, he has the upper hand, reflecting an age-old belief that to know an evil spirit by name is to defeat it. Many versions of the tale exist worldwide. Some, like the English, use variations of the German name Rumpelstiltskin, which historians believe dates to a 1575 children's book. Although the name's meaning is debated, some speculate it relates to the bumping, rumpling, and clacking of stilts, furniture posts, by otherworldly creatures in the home. Other versions of the name include Richton in France, Tremotino in Italy, Tom Tit Tot in England, and Whuppity Story in Scotland. Historian Maria Tater notes that the tale is known in nearly every culture where clothes are made from spinning, which highlights a special relationship between spinning and the use of storytelling to pass the time. The Grimms adapted their famous version from 4 tales they heard in Hesse, Germany. There once was a miller who was poor, but he had a beautiful daughter. It so happened that he crossed paths with the king, and trying to impress him, the miller claimed, "I have a daughter who can spin straw into gold." The king said to the miller, "Well, such an art would please me well. If your daughter is as gifted as you claim, bring her to the castle tomorrow. I will put her to the test." When the girl was brought before the king, he led her to a chamber filled with straw, gave her a spinning wheel and a bobbin, and said, "Now set to work. If you have not spun this straw into gold by dawn, then you must die." He made sure the room was locked and left the poor girl alone inside. She sat there, fearing for her life, having no idea what to do. She knew nothing about how to spin straw into gold, and her worry grew with each passing moment until she finally broke down in tears. Suddenly, the door opened and a little man stepped in, saying, "Good evening, Miss Miller. Why are you crying so?" "Oh, dear me, I've been told I have to spin all this straw into gold, and I have no idea how," the little man said. "What will you give me if I spin it for you?" "My necklace," she answered. So the little man took the necklace, sat down at the wheel, and whir, 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 with 3 spins the spool was full. He loaded another spool, and whir, 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 with 3 more spins the second spool was just as full. And so it went on till morning, when all the straw had been spun and all the spools were laden with gold. At sunrise, the king appeared, and when he saw the mass of gold, he was altogether astounded and mightily pleased. But his heart grew greedy for more. So he had the girl brought to another chamber full of straw, even bigger than the last one, and ordered her to spin all of it during the coming night, if she valued her life. Again, she didn't know what to do and began to weep. And again, the door swung open and the little man appeared, asking, "What will you give me if I spin all this straw into gold for you?" "The ring on my finger," she replied. The little man took the ring and let the spinning wheel fly again, and by morning he had spun all the straw into shining gold. The king was thrilled at the sight of the yellow metal, but his hunger for gold had not been satisfied, and he had the girl taken to a still bigger chamber and said, Another night's work for you. But this time, if you succeed, you shall be my wife." He thought to himself, "Even if she is just a miller's daughter, I won't find a richer woman in all the world." She was hardly alone again when the little man came back a third time, asking, "What will you give me now if I spin this straw for you once more?" "I have nothing left to give," she answered. "Then promise me that when you become queen, you will give me your firstborn child." "Who knows how all this will end?" thought the girl. In her distress, she could think of no other way out, and she gave in to the little man's demand, and once more he began to spin the straw into gold. The next morning, the king came and found what he had hoped for, and, as promised, he married her, and so the beautiful miller's daughter became a queen. A year later, she brought a precious baby into the world and thought nothing more of the little man. But suddenly he strode into her chambers and said, "Now give me what you promised." The queen was terrified and offered the little man all the riches of the kingdom if only he would leave the newborn child alone. But he insisted, "No, a living being is worth far more to me than all the treasures of the world." The queen began to grieve and cry so terribly that the little man finally felt sympathy for her. "I will give you 3 days' time," he said, "and if you know my name by then, you may keep your child." All night long, the queen struggled to think of every last name she'd ever heard and sent a messenger out across the kingdom, scouring far and wide for any other names. When the little man returned the next day, she began with names such as Casper, Melchior, and Balthazar, and tried all the names she knew, one after the other. But with each one, the little man said, "That is not my name." On the second day, she had all the family surrounding the castle questioned, and she offered the little man their rarest and strangest nicknames. "Could your name be Ribs Fiend, or Mutton Chops, or Lace Legs?" Each time he answered, "No, that is not my name either." On the third day, the messenger returned and reported, "I could not find one single new name, but as I was pressing on through the hinterlands by a high mountain along the forest edge, I passed a little house, and in front of the little house there was a fire burning, and around the fire was a ridiculous-looking little man hopping around on one leg, singing, 'Today I bake and tomorrow I brew, the next day I steal the queen's baby boo. Oh, it's so good and surely no shame that not a soul knows Rumpelstiltskin's my name.'" Now, you can imagine how delighted the queen was hearing the name. Not long after, the little man came in and asked, "Now, dear queen, what is my name?" At first, she asked, "Can it be Tom?" "No." Or Dick? "No." "What about Harry?" "No." "Oh, dear. Then could it possibly be Rumpelstiltskin?" "The devil told you that! The devil told you that!" screamed the little man, and he stamped his right foot so hard that he drove his leg down through the floor all the way to his waist. Then, in a fit of rage, he pulled at his left foot with both hands and tore himself right in two. The end. And that's it for today's episode of Storytime with Jen. We will see you tomorrow.